these experiences of the Great Migration with economic dependency, the psychological internalization of racism, the violence that was inflicted on the community from hate mongers, influenced different types of responses to social control. We had Booker T. Washington, the Tuskegee Institute, followed a path of peaceful acceptance and accommodation to the racialist order. W.B. Du Bois and the NAACP fought for civil rights reform and integration. Now let's understand a key element in the black community that emphasizes nationalism and resistance. Let's appreciate Marcus Garvey and the United Negro Improvement Association. Now, Marcus Garvey is going to initiate the first mass movement of African Americans which will develop in the North. Garvey will not challenge the legal system, but he will hold out a vision of a black nation by asserting Pan-Africanism. Marcus Garvey sought black pride and economic independence through black enterprise and organizations. And when he arrived in Harlem in 1916, he challenged African Americans by exclaiming, "Wake up, you mighty race." He was a Jamaican by birth. Marcus Garvey's leadership and vision of a better life for African Americans rallied many against racial injustice. Let's watch a film clip on the importance of this man to the African American heritage.
Marcus Garvey wanted to return African Americans to Africa, to create a vibrant black nation, empowered through economic independence. Although some of his goals were controversial, his crusade would inspire leaders from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela.
Garvey was certainly a controversial figure, but the concepts that we now think of as black nationalism and black pride started with Garvey's pronouncements.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, on August 17, 1887. Beginning as a printer's apprentice at 14, Garvey became a union organizer and later worked various jobs across Central America.
Marcus Garvey found wherever he went, black people of African heritage in particular were always on the lower stratification end of society. This had a profound impact on him. Particularly, his concern was for the uplift of African people globally.
In 1912, Garvey sailed to London, England, and took night courses at Birkbeck College. After working for a Pan-African newspaper, Garvey returned to Jamaica in 1914 and formed the United Negro Improvement Association, or UNIA.
The UNIA was about black self-determination. It was about galvanizing the ideas of black repatriation to the motherland, the continent of Africa. And it was extremely important in terms of getting black people to understand self-pride, pride in one's race.
Inspired by Booker T. Washington to raise funds and start his own school, Garvey came to the United States in 1916. And in 1918 began publishing the Negro World newspaper.
Garvey was extremely outspoken. He was, some people would say, almost bombastic. He wanted to take over Africa and had elected himself as president of Africa without consulting the Africans, unfortunately.
Determined to achieve economic independence for African Americans, Garvey launched the Negroes Factories Association in 1919 and a shipping company called the Black Star Line, which he planned to use to transport passengers back to Africa.
Garvey was a great organizer, but unfortunately not a great businessman. During the time that Garvey and the UNIA were trying to launch the Black Star Line, they solicited funds from investors for stock options through the mail. And this resulted later on in allegations of mail fraud, and Garvey was convicted and sent to prison.
After serving 5 years in prison, Garvey was deported. He eventually moved to London, and in 1938, he supported the Greater Liberia Act, created by known white supremacist Senator Theodore Bilbo from Mississippi.
Marcus Garvey's association with Senator Bilbo is related more on a practical level rather than an intellectual like for each other. Marcus Garvey's attempt to help Africans in America leave and go to Africa fell in line with some aspects of KKK philosophy.
Garvey died in London on June 10, 1940. He was reinterred in Jamaica in 1964 and is hailed as Jamaica's first national hero and the prophet of the Rastafarian religion.
Although Garvey was a flawed leader, he's someone who is really important to the history of the Black radical tradition. He was probably one of the strongest voices of Black nationalism in history.
Okay, so these are methods of how involuntary immigrants sought autonomy in numerous ways, rejecting means of social, economic, and political control. Again, what we have learned from the immigrant experience is that when you are in a disadvantaged position, you must organize for your rights. And in this particular case, it was black against white. Now, just imagine that you are not wanted as part of this American dream. This means that you have to improvise